I am here with Casey Allen from Concentric. Welcome.
Thank you.
You want to tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure thing. I'm Casey Allen. I'm the Chief Information Officer at Concentric. I've worked in technology for about 20 years now. Started off in the United States Marine Corps. And since then, I've worked at a variety of, everything from startups to SMBs to nonprofits and Fortune 500s. And now I'm over here at Concentric.
Great. And so today we're going to talk about, among other things, the issue of democratizing cybersecurity. So tell me what you mean by that.
Yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about. So I just really want for cybersecurity to be more accessible and more prevalent across all industries and for consumers. What I've seen happen in the security space over the last decade or so is, as there's more and more high-profile cyber attacks and breaches, large enterprises are now investing a lot more heavily in their own cyber defenses and making themselves harder targets, which of course is a good thing, but it has some unfortunate downstream effects where smaller companies, SMBs, and individual consumers are now the soft targets. There's also been a lot of development on the hacker side of the house, where they've really created these marketplaces where people can purchase tools to execute ransomware as a service and other just very highly sophisticated, highly scalable ways of attacking folks, where they can really cast a wide net in terms of the attacks they're trying to launch. And while they may get foiled by the cyber defenses of a large enterprise, they're often successful for these smaller organizations that don't have the tools and the expertise necessary to defend against them.
So tell me, what do you mean by ransomware as a service, in case people aren't familiar with that concept?
Sure. So, when ransomware first came about, usually attackers would go after very, very big, very lucrative targets like large enterprises. But now, these hacker groups have really become very, very highly sophisticated organized crime rings, where rather than being the ones to launch the attacks themselves, which they still often do, they've actually created a marketplace on the dark web where you can purchase various strains of ransomware, or if you have the money, you can actually purchase zero-day exploits in order to launch them at a particular target. And really what this allows people to do is, rather than spending a lot of time doing reconnaissance and launching an attack on a specific business, this ransomware as a service allows you to just send it to 100 different companies at the same time. And if even one of them takes the bait and becomes a victim, the ROI is still very high.
And it also sounds like maybe people with fewer skills can do it. You don't have to be a mastermind.
That's right.
So it's even more, so these attackers can go after smaller companies. As you say, why chase fish when you can chase a whale, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's really lowered the barrier to entry for aspiring cyber criminals.
Right. That makes sense. It's very concerning. So let's talk about other factors that might be aggravating the situation. Do you feel that the pandemic and the move to hybrid work is affecting this environment at all?
It certainly has, both from a technical standpoint and a psychological one. So as folks move to working from home or working hybrid, what that meant was they're now operating outside of the security perimeter that's laid out through their company. So connecting from their home networks or coffee shops, hotels, wherever. So the security controls that more or less kept them safe while they were working in an office or some other on-premise location, once you remove the devices from that network, a lot of that security control is lost. The other thing on the psychological side is hackers really like to take advantage of fear. So there's been a lot of phishing emails and other attacks that are really trying to capitalize on people's fear of the pandemic. Click here for free test kits, or click here for the latest report of COVID in your area, things like that, where they know are very relevant and people want that information. So they try and exploit that to get them to click on malicious links or download nefarious software, things like that. Also, we've seen a lot of people that are working more than usual, even if they're working from home. The boundaries between home and work are very blurred for a lot of us right now, and we're working longer hours. We're exhausted, a lot of us are, which leads to complacency, and complacency kills.
Interesting. So there's more vulnerabilities. And also, it seems like that would also affect smaller companies more seriously, because like a big company would have more sophisticated like VPNs and endpoint management and stuff, versus a smaller company where it's like, take your laptop home and log in, and you're just kind of sitting out there.
Yeah, a lot of these small businesses are struggling to get by at all, especially those that had to shut down for an extended period of time. So they're running especially lean through the pandemic, and without the benefit of those more advanced security controls in place to protect them. And a large enterprise, they might be able to withstand the impact of a cyber attack, especially the financial one. The average cost of a big cyber breach is a couple $1 million. So for these small businesses that were struggling to even stay open, if they get impacted by some kind of cyber attack, the unfortunate result is a lot of them have had to shutter up and close their doors as a result.
Right. I mean, that's an interesting thing. I've been talking recently in this video series about quantification of cyber risk, and it's important to be able to put a dollar value on a risk. But the problem is, for a smaller company, that dollar amount may just be too much, even if it doesn't sound like a lot of money in the scale of things. But for a company that might be trying to manage cash flow, whatever, if it has to come up with $50,000 or $100,000 to resolve an issue, that could be a lot. That could really cause a lot of problems, or even put it out of business. So we've gotten a feel for the problem. So let's talk about solutions, because I don't like to talk about problems unless I have a solution, or at least an idea of a solution. What do you think can be done about this, and who should do it?
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of good news too. I agree. We shouldn't just focus on all the bad. So I think that one of the great equalizers in this space is going to be the advancement of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and orchestration, where a lot of security efforts right now are very manual. They require highly trained, specialized human beings to do the kind of heuristic analysis, incident response, and security orchestration that's required to really have a robust security program. And as more companies are developing these products for large enterprises, the positive downstream effect of that is, at some point, we're gonna leverage that technology to be able to make it available to smaller organizations. Now, I do think there's still a gap that exists on the consumer side. There's not many ways for an individual to easily beef up their own security in a way that's got some effective defense in depth, where we're talking about the same concepts of protecting people's devices, their accounts, and their network connections. But unfortunately, most folks they don't know what to go out and buy. There's so many different products out there on the market. Some of them are snake oil. And even if they do know what to buy, it's still very intimidating for an individual that doesn't live and breathe security every day to go out there and set these things up. And the unfortunate result of any security control is it tends to make someone's the task they're trying to accomplish a little bit more difficult. So at some point, I'm confident we're going to reach a sort of critical mass where individuals realize that having poor cyber hygiene is just an unacceptable activity in society anymore. Sort of like impaired driving. At some point, society shifted to realize this isn't an acceptable behavior anymore, and it's really frowned upon. So at some point, we're going to see that with respect to folks' cyber hygiene, and then I think people's willingness to accept the obstacles that using some of these tools presents for them is actually worth the time and investment to use.
Yeah, I mean, one thought I had is that not that the problem will solve itself, but that as a younger generation matures and becomes more savvy buyers of technology, I think the market will start to build more security into the solutions, because it's, not for me, I'm too old, but like, someone like my kids' age, like when they want to buy an iPhone, they're going to say, what's the security in this? It's just going to be a given, like they're going to expect it. And the vendors will have to do it. Do you think there's anything that the government can do? Is there a regulatory side to this? Do you think they come into play?
Yeah, absolutely. So just last year in 2021, I think 40 or 45 different states introduced some kind of proposal for increasing cybersecurity, including Puerto Rico, actually. So there's a lot happening at the state level. There's activity on the federal level as well. In fact, just this morning, I was reading an article that's talking about the Commerce Department is proposing some changes to basically expand federal oversight to be able to regulate apps like TikTok, for example, which is very much Chinese spyware, despite how much fun and entertainment it brings to the users. It poses a great risk to our national security as well as the security and privacy of its users. So to be able to rein that in a little bit more, I think could go a long way. I mean, obviously we're a free country with a free market, so some of those apps are going to continue to be used. But I think a lot of folks don't realize the impact of using applications like that and the data that they're giving away to people when they do. But hopefully that's one of those things that as time goes on, people will start to realize those trade-offs and become more aware of the impact. And I think they'll be more demanding of these application developers to basically abide by the Cyber Privacy Bill of Rights.
That makes sense. So tell me about Concentric. Does Concentric have a role to play in this?
We're certainly playing in this space, absolutely. Especially when it comes to the small business, the family office, and the individual consumer. That's really where we see the biggest gap right now, and that's the problem that we're focused on solving. There's a lot of competition, a lot of great work being done for large enterprises. I applaud all that work and all the folks working to solve that problem. But for us, we're very much focused on the SMB space and the individuals.
Okay, well, wonderful. Well, thank you, Casey, for being with us today. This was very interesting. I learned something, and we'll hopefully have to have you back again to see how this story continues.
I really look forward to it. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, thank you.